What's up? Welcome back to Overtime Operators, the show where we talk about making money in sports. We are going to get into some NFL bets for the week. But before we do that, Casey, got to hold you accountable for last week. You actually ended up with a pretty good week last week, Casey. You ended up right side up about $50 or 20%. That's not counting odds, odds on spread bets. But all in, you lost two bets. So you lost a Browns Texans under at 42.5 points, and you lost on Ravens Niners. You took the Niners -5. The Ravens beat them handily. But other than that, you won out. So you had the Lions -3 over the Vikings. You had Colts Falcons under 44, and you had the Dolphins with a -1.5 point spread on the Cowboys, and they won the game. Great job to Casey, up 20%. If you're following Casey into bets, he's actually up about 20% over the last 3 weeks as well. But you got to follow him into all of them because he does miss. But overall,
occasionally, rarely. It's not my fault. Joe Flacco decided to have his best game of his career.
You miss plenty, but it washes out. So if you're gonna select which ones you follow Casey into, buyer beware. All right, Casey, let's get into this week. $10 bet. The way we do this show, if you've never seen it before, is we have a 10, 20, 30, 40, and $50 round, just signifying how confident we are in the bets. They could be any amount of money. All right, Casey, $10 round. What you got?
Yeah, all right. Getting started early here. $10 bet. I am going straight to the well of spread bets here. I've been picking up on a trend of just jumping on the huge favorites. It's risky betting against huge numbers, huge spreads, but it still happens way more often than it doesn't happen, it seems like. At least it has in the last few weeks here. For that reason, I'm going to jump on a team that some people are starting to lose faith in. I think they're going to turn it around in a big way in this game. In the Battle of the Birds, I'm going to take the Eagles -11 over the Cards in Philadelphia. This is just on that trend completely. The Cardinals, pretty terrible football team this year. Sure, a lot of stuff has been rattled around and changed around that you could point to a positive trend going forward, but I don't really buy into that. Eagles got to get right before the playoffs start here. They don't want to continue losing ball games that they should win. So 11 points should be in the rear view by the end of the third quarter, I think. So go out there, put up points, and then put up some more points, Eagles. There you go.
That feels right. They got to get right. Also, Eagles, one of the main birds of prey. Cardinal. I don't even know what cardinals eat. Like worms, probably.
They don't eat eagles. Fight in the wild.
Yeah,
for sure.
They don't eat eagles. So, I like that. I like the Eagles on this one. You have a theme of taking the big spreads, favorite teams on big spreads. The big spreads don't scare you. But like I said, you are right side up over the last 3 weeks by about 20%. So that's a good investment. Nobody's making 20% in their 401k. This isn't financial advice.
Invest your 401k into my bets every week. No, to be clear, I'm not following every large spread. I'm picking ones that jive with what I see happening anyways.
The football that your eyeballs see. Got it.
Correct.
Okay, Daps, over to you. Little accountability with you for last week. You ended up down about the same amount. Casey was up, down about 20% for the week. No, just kidding. Sorry, you're down about 10% for the week. So just barely lost out. So you lost Commanders at Jets. You liked that under 37.5 points. Somehow those two teams scored like way more than that. Cowboys at Dolphins, you like the over on 51. I would have liked the over on 51 as well. Somehow those two teams did not score points. And then your other loss was your big bet, Bills, Chargers. You like the Bills at -10.5. The Bills won the game, but they did not cover that 10.5 point spread. Your two wins were Ravens +5. So you got the other side of Casey's loss, which that might make you feel better. Like you were down for the week, but you got the flip side of Casey's loss.
He got a better one later on in the show. So.
Yeah. And then Rams Saints, you liked Rams at -4. That one covered. So you ended up down just about 10%. Over the last few weeks, you're down about that amount. Over the whole season, I think you're right side up. But over the last few weeks, you've been on a bit of a cold streak. I think we can turn it around this week, though. Daps, what you got in that $10 spot?
I'm going to go Lions +6 against the Cowboys, who just seem to always lose games they're supposed to win.
Ooh, okay.
Man, I had to fight myself for picking that game, Daps. So I like it.
All right, Lions +6. I got it. All right, Casey, back to you for the $20 round, the more confident bet. What do you got here?
All right. So as I just pointed out, Daps got me. I was on the losing end of a direct bet we had against each other last week where I bet on my Niners. We all know how that went. We don't even need to talk about that game.
The Ravens are
anyway,
the best team in football. That's all we really
the
need
Ravens
to say about it.
definitely were the best team in football on Monday night. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, this week I am continuing on the trend. It's not just bias, but this is where I think that a big spread could pay off for us. 49ers in the Capitol playing the Commanders, 13.5-point favorites. I like it that is right underneath 14 points. That makes it nice and clean to say, hey, they can win by 2 touchdowns. I definitely think that's the case. If the Eagles need a get-right game, the Niners need one even worse because you can't go into the playoffs off of a loss that you had against the Ravens. You got to build some momentum back. I think they're still in contention for that number 1 seed too. It's completely up for grabs, and everyone matters here. You got to win the ones that you're supposed to win. And the Commanders are a game where you could also inflate some of those stats that we need to see for CMC or maybe even still Brock Purdy to bring home the MVP. So it fits a lot of narratives that they're trying to accomplish.
Fits a lot of narratives that Casey wants to.
Hell yeah, brother. Let's
but
go
hey,
CMC for MVP.
Your bets have been working. So you know what? The narratives are working. All right, Daps, that's to you. $20 spot. What do you like?
I like the Steelers Seahawks under 41.5 in Seattle. I think both teams play pretty conservative football, run the ball a lot. I don't love the weather in Seattle. I'm sure that the crowd noise is going to affect whether it's Mason Rudolph or whoever's playing quarterback for the Steelers this week. The Seahawks are very inconsistent. Sometimes they can put up points for sure, but the Steelers play a style of football that is slow and boring. And if the Seahawks play into that, I like the under.
I like it as well. If we get some rain out there, unders are always good. Seattle this time of year, rain is a safe bet. So I like that one in the $20 spot. 41.5, you said, is the under on that?
I got it at 41.5. Yep.
Yeah. Steelers have not been putting up points in their last several games. We're looking at, they did put up 34 against the Bengals, but other than that, it's like 13, 18, 10, 10, 10, 23, 20. So yeah, 41.5, well within reach, I think. It's really down to what the Seahawks can do. If they can play as good as they can play, then they could probably put up some points. But I like it in the $20 spot, not high risk. All right, Casey, $30 round, mid-range confidence. You get hitting those middies now. What do you like?
This one's going to come with a warning attached to it. Maybe it's not directly in order of confidence this week, even though that's how I normally do it. This one is a little bit of I'm paying the penalty for myself here. I now have to sport this new take that the Ravens are the best team in football. So I'm getting in on a game that I just want action on. And had the Ravens not been coming off of a win against the Niners, I might have gone the other way on this one. They are 4-point favorites at home against the Dolphins. So I am actually taking the Ravens here. 4 points be damned. I do like the Dolphins a lot. I think they're a good team. The Ravens do appear to be the more complete team if I'm cherry picking. And I think that's how this game could go. I think the Ravens could do just enough on defense to slow down the Dolphins and maybe grind out the clock a little bit, kind of play clock control, time of possession game against the Dolphins. I think that's the recipe for success against the Dolphins. That's how you beat a good Dolphins team, similar to how the Titans did it. If the Titans can do it, I certainly believe the Ravens can. So give me the Ravens -4 at home.
Yeah, a couple comments on that. I saw on Twitter this week, somebody said this Ravens versus Niners thing just proves that the AFC is better than the NFC. I'm like, what a weird take, because the Ravens are basically an NFC team in the AFC. First of all, and secondly, like they play way more like an NFC team than the other contenders in the AFC. Secondly, your take on the Dolphins. So the only time that they've won a real test this season is last week against the Cowboys. All the other tests that they've had, they've lost those games. So it's not really a bad bad bet, and the Ravens have had plenty of tests that they've beat. They've had, I mean, I think they got a loss to the Steelers. You know, they got some bad losses in there, but they've got some good wins as well. So I like it.
Yeah, the Niners on the road got to be the biggest one of the bunch, though. Last
Yeah.
week, especially, it's a lot of
Yeah,
momentum on their side right now.
That was, yeah, the Niners had all the momentum going before that. But all right, so Ravens -4 at home against the Dolphins in the $30 spot. I like it. Daps to you for the $30 spot.
I went with another under Bengals Chiefs 44.5. Both teams very underachieving last week. I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs. It was hard to watch that game. It's like they're so out of. I mean, the Raiders didn't do. The Raiders didn't do anything that they deserved to win the game. I believe they had no completed pass after the first quarter. Think about that.
The Raiders played normal Raiders football. Yeah. The Raiders played normal Raiders football, and that was enough to beat the Chiefs.
And, you know, the 2 defensive touchdowns, kudos to Crosby and the defense. Obviously, they're, you know, nothing bad to say about them. But, you know, what do you expect? You're playing with a backup quarterback who obviously it doesn't look like the answer or the franchise player. But Mahomes and the Chiefs, even without a, you know, wide receiver 1, have enough weapons to beat the Raiders, you know, and the turnovers they're making are so unnecessary. You're fumbling from the 7-yard line and giving them a touchdown, which ended up being the game. That play won the Raiders the game. It's just weird. It's weird to watch, and it's unfortunate to watch too, because 30%, 40% of the league this year, the QB1's been injured. So then you have Mahomes left as one of the star players who's left, and this is what we're watching as football fans. So I wasn't excited to watch the game before it started because it's Chiefs Raiders, and it was kind of a cool game when Derek Carr played because they really played them hard, and I enjoyed the matchup, but that game was not fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So
do you think the Raiders are crazy if Antonio Pierce isn't their head coach next year?
I mean, based on his small sample size, I would give him a shot. And unless you have some type of Super Bowl winning quarterback Super Bowl winning coach that becomes available, who are you going to hire? Some mediocre guy ends up being like Brandon Staley and, you know, making your team suffer for 5 years.
John Gruden round 3, maybe.
John Gruden.
Yeah.
John Gruden. We could get the website going again.
Yeah, put him on a franchise, the equivalent of a franchise tag for a coach. That's what I would do.
Sorry. So what was your bet? Your $30 bet this week? Is it Raiders over Colts?
No, it's Bengals Chiefs under 44.5.
Oh, I got you. So basically,
all right, all
those teams can put up points anymore. Go ahead, Casey.
I mean, weirdly, the Bengals might be able to more than the Chiefs.
Preseason, I would have thought that they both would have put up 30 points against one another.
You just told me week 4 that the over for that game was 44.5. I'd have been like, smash the over right now.
Yeah,
should be 54.5. Yeah.
All right, Casey, go ahead.
All right, $40 bet. I'll start off this round. In my $40 spot, hey, this is very fitting based off what Daps was just telling us. I am going with the Raiders.
Okay.
+3 on the road in Indianapolis against the Colts. The Raiders playing good football, man. Like good old school football, control the clock, like we were talking about a little bit. Don't need to throw passes to win games against really recent Super Bowl, like the current dynasty. Antonio Pierce looking like the best decision they ever made, just having him take over in the head coach spot. I do agree with Daps' take. I think that's got to be the future head coach unless somebody incredible becomes available, in which case Pierce should go head coach somewhere else. I fully believe too. 3 points is the nothing spread at this point in the season. I mean, it's basically a toss-up. They're on the road anyway, so it's basically a toss-up game, and the Colts are a good team when they want to be, but the Raiders are just on fire right now, and I'm gonna run it back with the Raiders this week, +3 in Indy.
What's crazy too is the Raiders lost 3-0 to the Vikings, and if they could have kicked 2 field goals, They're 8 by the way, they're 8-7 if that happens. They're
It's the
7-8
worst
right
game
now.
of the
They're
season.
8-7. They'd have a very good chance of making the playoffs had they won that game.
Yeah. Did you happen to see Jimmy Garoppolo just losing his mind, excited on the sideline? I don't know. It just felt good for me as a former like Jimmy guy. I'm like, Jimmy, you're benched, bro. You have nothing to do with this team anymore. But he's so excited they could make the playoffs. So good for Jimmy, team player.
Casey, I feel like you do. I don't know if you're anti-Colts or what. I feel like you just like throw out a lot of anti-Colts narratives.
I mean,
you're like this other team has a reason to win, and the Colts. I'm like the Colts do also, but I don't know.
I mean, they have a reason to try to win. I don't think that means that they're going to win, though.
Yeah. All right. All right. So Raiders, Colts, +3. Raiders +3. Oh, so the Raiders are getting 3 points. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. $40 round to you, Daps.
I shared the same sentiment as Casey. I actually got in my book. I had Ravens -3, which I jumped all over instead of -4. But I mean, I've been telling everybody I would still take it at -4. Yes. I think the Ravens looked like the most complete team on Monday night. They did to the Niners what the Niners have been doing to, the top teams that they play at the time, the Cowboys, the Eagles, right? Niners just dismantling them, and that wasn't a game at all. I'm not all about the Brock Purdy slander. I think he threw 4 picks, and I think 2 of them were kind of tipped, and it could kind of go either way with whose fault that is, whether it's the receiver should have caught it, or I mean, listen, there was some really good plays made by the Ravens defenders. Yep. One of those the tipped ball that he threw on the screen to the left, like that was just an athletic play that ended up being a pick. And also Purdy, the play call is on that play. That's the play call. It's throw a screen to that guy. There's no other play. Like Purdy's throwing that ball no matter what. So like that's also, and listen, Shanahan is one of my favorite coaches in the league, especially offensively, but like that's part on Shanahan, right? He got, not to say he got out coached, but like the Ravens were ready for that play and they made a better play than he called a play. So Lamar Jackson looked incredible. He's already won an MVP. I think that he's the clear-cut favorite right now because of that type of win. And if he beats the Dolphins, I don't think he needs to win the last game of the season. You beat the Dolphins and the Niners back-to-back weeks, who are both top 5 teams. That's your MVP right there. Casey, not to kick a man while he's down, but the media, and I don't know if it's the Niners fan base or just the media, the way that they glorify the Niners when they go on a 5-game win streak, and they went on 2 5-game win streaks this year, one followed by 3 losses in a row to really bad teams, which when that happens, all that I as a fan go is they can be beat any Sunday, right? Like if you can lose to the Browns, the Vikings, and the Bengals, any team can beat you on any given week. You're not unstoppable. And the media is all about who's hot right now, and they're the best team in the league. And you see the MVP change weekly now with social media. It's the last 5 weeks of the season. Every week it's, this is the clear-cut MVP. This is the clear-cut MVP. And then it changes the next week. And then Brock Purdy's MVP odds Super Bowl ticket that was a future sold for $100,000. And now that guy's going to be out. He looks like an idiot. So I think the cool thing about the NFL right now is that in the playoffs, every single team is beatable. There is no team that cannot be beat. Every single team is beatable. And that's what makes the playoffs awesome, by the way. That's like that's how it becomes like a March Madness, where you have those stories of seeds that aren't supposed to win, like the Giants when they beat the Patriots years ago. Like that's what you want to see as a fan, is just some team getting hot. This Joe Flacco story is really cool, right? He's 38 years old. He was sitting on the couch. Now he's got, I think, like the most passing touchdowns since he started games of any player, close to like top 5 yards, top 5.
Joe Flacco for MVP.
Yeah. So
let's go Flacco.
I'm going.
Hey,
Ravens.
Go ahead,
John.
I was going to say, put some respect on his name. The man's got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. So, Stafford is also heating up right now. 2 years
Speaking
removed from Yeah.
Speaking of bad quarterbacks who've won a Super Bowl, let's talk about Matt
Yeah.
Stafford.
So, it's going to be an interesting playoffs, and I'm excited as a football fan, especially as a Jets fan, because I have nothing to watch from my team. You like to get some good games on TV. So Ravens -3 in the 40 spot.
I like it. Ravens -3. I will say I do think, yeah, if Lamar beats the Dolphins, probably the favorite for MVP. If he craps the bet against the Steelers and they lose and he has a bad game, he could play himself right out of it in the last game of the season. But as long as he just kind of holds on to the bag, he's probably got it. But all right, that was $50 round to you, Daps, right? Or was that $40 round?
That was $40 round.
All right. So
Yeah.
speaking of Dolphins Ravens, Casey, $50 round to you. Leaking your picks. Sorry. You wrote them down.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate that a ton. No big deal. Yeah, I do have Dolphins at Ravens here in my $50 spot. The points line is at 47. I'm going to take the over here. I think that pretty much regardless of game script, this line could be hit. True, if the Ravens do ground pound, control the clock, keep it a low-scoring game, try to keep the Dolphins' offense off the field, this could hit the under. I still, this is maybe a little bit of a hedge bet. Like I said, when I went into the $30 round, this is a warning because I might have picked the Dolphins had this not been on the back of a Niners loss to the Ravens. But this is kind of a little bit of a hedge because if the Dolphins win, this is going to hit the over. I just firmly believe that. If the Ravens win, it could go either way, the under or over. And where the points are at 47, I don't mind it either way. Just to wrap up the MVP talks, though, I like you pointed out, Daps, it changes weekly. I think it's completely still up for grabs, honestly. Like Lamar and the Ravens could win out. It depends how he would do it, I think. There's a lot of factors. Interesting note, CMC is at number 2 in every book now, which is, I think, the highest that any non-quarterback has gotten so far. So I think it's more of if Lamar craps the bed, this might be the first time where it's real, where we say it's not just automatically going to another quarterback. Although I wouldn't blame the media for shooting another quarterback up the ranks too.
CMC definitely has the most consistent play, week to week. But
Tyreek Hill sitting at 6th in the race right now across all the books, and I think there's.
Well, I don't know if he still. Yeah, I don't know if he still can. But like, if Tyreek were to break the receptions yard record, I would argue you can't give it to anybody besides Tyreek because you're literally talking about that's the best record ever for yards. Who is more valuable to their team than the guy who has the record for yards in the season? Yards. So and by the way, that goes for any record. Rushing yards in a season, yards from scrimmage. Right. Yeah. Like, so if you break a record, I don't think we should be giving them to quarterbacks as defaults because they had a good year. Like, that's a record. That's the record. Right. Yeah. So a good quarterback season is not going down in history. The record is going down in history.
We talking about records.
Yeah, we talking about records. So I don't know. I know Tyreek, I think he needed like 450 yards with 3 games left. And I think he only got 100 last week. So he'd probably need close to 200-yard games to finish the season. And he's still got a bum ankle. So I don't think that's going to happen. And the other thing is when you've got 2 guys, Tua and Tyreek, Purdy and Christian, both in the discussion for MVP, I don't know how you give the award to that player because there's 2 MVPs on one team, which kind of defeats the purpose of the award. You're not the most valuable player. You have another guy who's top 10 in the league. So there's 2 most valuable players on the same team. So it's hard to give MVP to somebody when you have a teammate who's in the top 5
who's
or
also
top
in the
10.
running.
Yeah, like you take Lamar off that team, like what are the Ravens?
For
a 4-win team. Like if you take Purdy or Christian off the Niners, they have a couple more losses, but they're probably in the playoffs, right? Like
there's more complete.
So
I do think actually the Dolphins are significantly worse without Tyreek. I don't even think Tua's in the conversation without Tyreek. Yeah.
Nobody's
I mean, they won.
I don't think Tua's in the conversation.
They won 30-0. They won 30-0 without Tyreek the other day
against
the Jets, who have one of the best passing yards or passing defenses in the league. So, 30 points. It didn't look like a game. Tyreek is incredible. But again, like Tua threw a pass to Waddle when Tyreek was out that looked exactly the same as the touchdowns he throws to Tyreek. And I thought, wow, if he can do that without Tyreek in, he's a good quarterback, right? So the thing about it is like he does have Tyreek. So you have to stop that discussion. Like that's not a real thing. Tyreek is part of the Dolphins. He's Tua's teammate and wide receiver 1, right? Like obviously Mahomes' numbers, by the way, were way better with Tyreek, right? So when you have a wide receiver 1, of course your stats are going to be better. But
I think my main point is just I don't really think Tua should be in the discussion personally, but that's just
third odds on
favorite.
I mean, third or fourth.
I would say I actually think Tyreek deserves to be in the discussion more, but let's move on from this point. I'll tag this game with one thing on the over. Casey 47, pretty safe over on this one. Definitely game script could go away. The other way a game script could go is we are in Baltimore. Weather could be a factor right now. Weather outlook looks pretty good. But yeah, probably wait until you can, wait till it's close to the game and you're going to be more confident in the weather to smash the over on that. All right. $50 bet to you, Daps. Let's wrap up this betting week.
I went with the Rams -4.5 against the Giants. Giants did look good against the Eagles, but I really think the Eagles might lose in the first round. They are not impressive. I think they won 2 or 3 games this year that they easily could have lost. They do not look consistent. They do not look like a powerhouse team. Could they beat anybody? Sure, but I see an early playoff exit for the Eagles this year. Rams -4.5 against the Giants. The Rams, remember, Mahomes won the Super Bowl last year. Stafford won the Super Bowl the year before that. So,
yeah. The Giants kind of have that kind of big that energy right now where they're just scrapping and they won, I think, 3 straight games before this loss against the Eagles. So they got this energy. It's not like great football play, but this sort of just scrapping out wins type of energy. You never know. That's kind of like the puncher's chance. You never know what's going to happen. Rams do look like the better team, though. I like it. -4.5 in the Giants' house. Okay, boys, that wraps up our week of betting. So you know what time it is. Heat check. Let's talk about which teams have the most passing first downs per game this season. So we're going passing first downs per game this season. That is the category. Where are you guys at for this season? I think Casey's still down 1, right?
I don't know.
I believe
perhaps.
I believe Casey's still down 1. So Casey, would you like to go first, or would you like Daps to go first?
I'll go first this time. I always make Daps go first.
All right. Okay, Casey. The Philadelphia Eagles.
I have a question. Why does Casey pick when he wins and when he loses? Who goes?
Yeah.
first?
What the hell, John?
John, that's messed up, bro.
It's because he's still behind. So you're still up 1 overall.
He's been behind the whole time, is what you're saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if he evens it up this week, then you'll get to pick who goes first.
Now I think Daps just brought that up, so we reiterate that I'm behind again.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for ganging up on me.
He's behind for the season. Just a heads up, Daps has won this game more times than Casey has. That's why he got to pick first. Okay. So Casey, the Philadelphia Eagles have 11.8 passing first downs per game. This is the most obscure category ever. Passing first downs per game this season. We're going with this season. Do the New Orleans Saints have more or less than that?
More.
11.8. So the Philadelphia Eagles have 11.8 passing first downs per game. The New Orleans Saints have 11.5 passing first downs per game. So you said more. The answer was not more. It was less.
Really
you don't know that? You don't know that stat off the top of your head, kids?
Good. I just wanted to rip it quick.
At this point in the season,
danger.
I was trying to come up with a more fun, pass. It's so hard to come up with anything because at this point in the season, you guys actually know kind of who has the most receiving yards, rushing yards, passing yards. It's very hard to come up with this season stat for this game that isn't super obscure. So this is what we're doing: passing first downs. All right, to you, Daps. The New Orleans Saints have 11.5 passing first downs per game. Do the Jacksonville Jaguars have more or less than that? 11.5 is the number. I know that means a lot to you.
It's 11.5
Passing first downs per game.
passing first downs per game. I'm gonna
Yes.
go with more because I think ETN catches a solid amount of balls out of the backfield, and I assume that those are all counting towards that.
Yes.
That was my thoughts with Kamara, but didn't work out for me.
It did not work out.
Well,
So
Kamara also didn't play the first
He
3
didn't-
games, so
yeah,
It's
he didn't
true.
play for
they're not. They've been like weirdly using him the last couple weeks. So
He had I feel like the 1 week that Derek Carr couldn't throw, Alvin Kamara had to have like 30 passing first downs because they're all 2-yard passes to Kamara. Okay. So the New Orleans Saints, 11.5 passing first downs per game. You say the Jacksonville Jaguars have more. The Jacksonville Jaguars have 11.9 passing first downs per game. So you're correct. More through one round. Daps is up 1-0. Casey, got to bring it back. The
Let's
Jacksonville
go.
Jaguars have 11.9 passing first downs per game. Do the Houston Texans have more or less than that?
Interesting. One more time, the number 11.9.
11
Jaguars.
11.9. Are these numbers meaningful to you?
Somewhat. I mean, sort of.
You've
The
got a
teams
few
are.
benchmarks now, I guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say I do think Houston's offense has been better than the Jaguars. They have been throwing a lot, so that makes me want to go that way. One of my big concerns is it seems like they have a lot of long touchdowns, which takes away a lot of easy first downs you get on drives. But I'm still gonna stick with the Texans.
Okay, so you think the Texans have more than the 11.9?
Yeah, pretty modest
the
running game for
Jaguars
the
have.
most of the year.
Yes. Okay, so the Jacksonville Jaguars have 11.9 passing first downs per game this season. Fun side note, the Jacksonville Jaguars almost led the league in this stat last year. They have 11.9 per game this season. Casey says the Houston Texans have more. The Houston Texans have 12.9. You were correct. They do have more.
I believe
All right,
last year, John, the first round running back rookie they took got hurt before the season started, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they could only pass. And 2 years ago, they did lead the league in this stat. Oh no, they were second. They're second the last 2 years in the stat. Anyway, Houston Texans 12.9 passing first downs per game this season. Daps to you. Do the Seattle Seahawks have more or less than that?
12.9.
12.9 is the number.
I'm gonna go less than.
It's got to be.
The Houston Texans have 12.9 passing first downs per game this season. Daps says the Seattle Seahawks have less. The Seattle Seahawks have 11.2 passing first downs per game this season. Good job, Daps. Daps is up 2-1 through 2 rounds. Casey, you got to be perfect.
Give him all the easy ones.
I gave you an easy one too.
Was that the highest to the lowest? While I'm behind on the scoreboard, no problem, no big deal.
The Texans to Saints, or the Texans to Jags gap was also large.
This one was larger, but that's okay.
So the Seattle Seahawks have 11.2 passing first downs per game this season. Do the Washington Commanders, this is to you, Casey, do the Washington Commanders have more or less than that?
Less.
Seattle Seahawks have 11.2 passing first downs per game this season. Casey says the Washington Commanders have less than that.
Hold on. I flipped the question in my head. I was thinking rushing. The Commanders have more passing first downs than Seahawks, I think. Sorry.
Okay. I was in the middle of saying the thing.
I know, but I immediately.
Do I need to start doing a Regis Philbin? Is that your final answer thing here?
Yeah, maybe,
like what?
maybe, I don't know. Maybe the host could get his crap together here.
All right. Is that your final answer, Casey?
That'll
More?
be my final answer.
Okay.
The Commanders have more than the Seahawks.
Okay. The Seahawks have 11.2 per game. Casey says the Washington Commanders have more than that. Casey is correct. The Washington Commanders have 11.7 passing first
Close to
downs
what I
per
thought,
game
though.
this season. So, Daps, to you. The Washington Commanders have 11.7 passing first downs per game this season. Do the Green Bay Packers have more or less than that?
I'm going to go with less than.
Is that your final answer? Can I lock that in?
You can lock that in. Yes, sir.
All right. The Washington Commanders have 11.7 passing first downs per game this season. Dap says the Green Bay Packers have less than that. The Green Bay Packers have 12 passing first downs per game this season. That means we're all tied up after 3 rounds, 2-2, going into the final round here. I do have a tiebreaker. Don't worry, boys. Who are we on? We're on the Packers. The Green Bay Packers have 12 passing first downs per game this season. Casey, do the Kansas City Chiefs have more or less than that?
The Packers have 12, which is pretty much right in the middle, numbers wise, of all the teams we've talked about.
Of all the ones that I've benchmarked for you, it is.
The Chiefs have definitely been running more
Pacheco is a beast.
first downs. And their passing game,
They only got one guy who can catch balls out there.
yikes. This one feels tough. This one feels like the toughest one so far. Because any other year would be obvious, I think.
What does your heart tell you, Casey?
Yeah, this year, let's just get spicy with it. I'm going to go less passing first downs for the Chiefs.
Okay.
The
Is that your final answer? Would you like to lock that in?
I'll lock it in. Why not? It
Okay.
doesn't feel good, but I'll lock it in.
The Green Bay Packers have 12 passing first downs per game this season. The Kansas City Chiefs have 13.3 passing first downs per game this season. So the answer was more. Casey missed it, which leaves it open. The door is open for the win here, Daps. The Kansas City Chiefs have 13.3 passing first downs per game this season. The San Francisco 49ers have more or less?
I gotta go more.
Okay. Is that your final answer? Would you like to? I'm sensing as soon as I said, "Is that your final answer?" You started talking.
Well, it's like I know these are always flipped, but some of them you just think like there's no way. You know, like I think Casey thought that on the last one, and that's why he guessed the Chiefs, right? Like he thought that he was like, this is too obvious. It has to be the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I gotta go more with the Niners because they're one of the best offenses in the league. Yeah. So
CMC catches a lot of balls. They got a lot of short distance. Yep. Okay. All right. I like it. All right. So Kansas City Chiefs, 13.3 passing first downs per game this season. That answer is locked in. Fun fact, they are averaging the same amount this season as they were last season. And that is 13.3. Dap says the San Francisco 49ers are averaging more than that. San Francisco 49ers are averaging 12.2 passing first downs per game this season, which means you both lost your final round question, and the score is 2-2. And that means we get to go to a tiebreaker, boys.
How do the Chiefs have so many first downs this year? They've been sucking.
Passing first downs? I mean, they were one of the best possessional they have one of the best possessional receivers, best possessional ball catchers like ever. So
not playing like it.
I mean, that also is only over the last like 4 or 5 games. In the first half of the season, he was playing like it.
Mahomes is going to be playing playoff games on the road this year. Just want everybody to recognize he's also never done that before.
Does Pacheco catch playoff matchups? Does Pacheco catch balls out of the backfield? That's another thing.
Not like prolifically at all. Okay. Jerick McKinnon's that guy, but I think he's been out for a week or 2.
They're like all hurt. Yeah.
All right. Tiebreaker, boys. There are 2 potential answers for this. I'll tell you that because there are 2 teams tied. What NFL team has the most passing first downs per game this season? I'll give you a few seconds to write it down. You have something to write on or type on close to you. Lots of teams that we left out here. I'll even give you this. I'll benchmark for you the highest team that we said.
Was it
The highest team
Texans?
we said was the Chiefs at 13.3.
Wow.
Texans had 12.9.
This is such a weird stat. So weird. It's got to
I-
be teams that are
I
efficient
mean,
enough to get
yes.
first downs, but they have to be down. Well, I guess they don't have to be down, but it would probably help
Yeah.
in like garbage time.
I mean, we
Some first
covered the
down.
Eagles, and they were like relatively low in our game.
Yeah,
It
but
was
they
like,
specifically rush for first. I
they've
mean, that's what they
specifically,
do.
yeah, push for 1 yard. Yes.
Otherwise, they would be not
right.
terrible.
Daps, do
Okay,
you have something written down here?
Yep.
I got something.
Casey, do you have something written down here?
I got something that struck me right at the last second, and I don't want to overthink about it. I'm just gonna let it be the answer. Oh shoot, it's probably something else, but that's okay. That's okay.
All right, Casey, Daps, show me what you got.
Wait. I already wrote it down. Do you want to guess my
Wait,
answer?
it's just a team, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, team.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I can show whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, show. Casey says the Bills. Who are you saying there, Daps? The
Says
Dolphins?
That's who I was gonna guess. He was gonna guess too, and that's who I thought right at the last second. But
At the top of the list is
Let
the
it ride.
Detroit Lions with 13.4 passing first downs per game this season. Second on the list is the Miami Dolphins with 13.4 passing first downs per game this season, meaning Daps continues his winning ways. And Casey will get to pick who goes first again next week because
hell
he's-
yeah,
'cause
that's
he's
what I really
losing
want.
loser.
Honestly, that's the power I really want.
The Kansas City
John,
Chiefs.
where are the Bills? You can't leave me cliffhanger.
The Kansas City Chiefs, just a quick note, were third at 13.3. The Buffalo Bills are 13th at 11.8.
Okay.
I didn't benchmark. I didn't really even talk about anybody below like 20. So like I gave you guys a weird benchmark in kind of the upper half of the league. Cause I don't know. Do you guys really want to talk about like the Tennessee Titans and the Carolina Panthers? Probably not,
Nah.
No, the Lions. That's a good answer. That's what I was hoping for with the Bills. Kind of negative game script, a good amount. Not
Just throwing the ball.
Kind of surprised the Lions are up there with Rhythm and Bruise.
Especially with Monty. Yeah, I get it.
I'm
Yeah,
not though,
good
because
running
they move the ball around so well. Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, St. Brown. They have like 3 kind of like number 2 receivers on their team. Jameson Williams. I forget the other 2 kids' names, but they're solid receivers.
Yeah.
So, and Goff kind of isn't good enough to like throw the ball deep,
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
but he gets the job done. So.
I thought for sure you guys would both say the Dolphins. They were like so suspicious. They're so
It's-
suspiciously left out of the game,
I said a team came to me. I don't want to think about it too much, and then I went, "Oh crap!" I just thought of somebody else, and
Yeah.
that was the Dolphins who I was thinking.
I figured
of.
it
But
was.
I wanted to. It would have been cooler if the Bills would have hit for sure because it was
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
I agree. It would have been cooler, but instead, Daps continues to dominate Casey at the game that Casey made up, at least in our world.
Nice.
I don't know if Casey was the originator of the game, but in our world, he made it up. And there's only a few more weeks for you to come back here, Casey. So
Hey,
I don't
that's
know.
all right. I get to choose every week, so who goes
gotta-
first?
yeah, that's the real power. It's doing well for you so far.
Yeah, it's true.
This is Overtime Operators, the show where we talk about making money in sports. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you know whenever we release episodes. If you're on an audio platform, please rate the show, give us 5 stars, and give us a little review. Tell us if you're following us into bets and if that's working out for you. And we will see you next time.